Welcome to the NCDWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to another episode of the NCDWI Guy podcast. Today, we have a very special guest on the podcast, Awad. He has a personal injury firm in Atlanta, Georgia, has grown his firm monumentally over the last 4-5 years. At this point, really incredible growth since coming out of law school. Is a brilliant legal business mind, brilliant legal marketing mind, and we're very excited to have you on the podcast, Ali.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. My name is Ali Awad, and I help injured people make a lot of money.
I love that. I saw that on the website, and man, of all the like catchphrases to kind of like use your name, there's been a couple people that I've talked to that have had, you know, a good name to kind of like put into that like one-liner. That's a great one.
You know, I've had, and there's like, you can change it as you go, right? I've thought like, that's too long. What if I just said, call Awad, win Awad? You know, I'm like, that's just way too many wads in one sentence. But honestly, man, like it started as a joke. You know, someone was like, hey man, your name is Awad. You get people a wad of money. And I'm like, ha, that's funny. And I'm like, that's kind of catchy.
Yeah,
so
it is catchy.
I actually went ahead and trademarked it. So now anytime you say a lot of money, you better be paying me.
I think that is, I mean, you know, it's all about with legal marketing, kind of, you know, separating yourself from the competition, right? Being different, being unique, having something that other people kind of buy into. So, you know, having this CEO lawyer kind of designation, I think is a really cool thing in terms of separating yourself from other people in the legal market space. In terms of the CEO lawyer, because that's kind of how you brand a lot of your social media, what started that kind of CEO lawyer mindset?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot, like how did you come up with the CEO lawyer brand? And to be honest, it's not like I had this intricate idea of, man, I just want to bring business and law and all this stuff together, and I'm going to brand it as CEO lawyer and start doing all these social platforms. If I'm being completely honest, in 2016, it was around the time where I was considering quitting my job and starting my own practice. And I had already been doing a lot of social media on, you know, TikTok and Facebook. And I was just getting my feet wet with Instagram. And I thought, man, this Instagram thing is really, really popular right now. And I just want to be famous on Instagram. And so I just wanted to create a page that was all about entrepreneurship and doing boss things. And so I called the page Power Moves. And I was like, all right, all I'm going to post about is power moves. Like, you know, when you go do this and you deal with a client, you close a deal, like that's a power move. You know, you fly to another country just for a quick, 8-hour visit. You close that meeting, you get back in town just so, in time to meet with your family, boom, power move. But then I realized, like, I don't really care about people just thinking that, like, I'm a influencer. I have so much value to give to people, and there's no reason for people to follow me if I'm not giving them that value. So I was just playing with my phone one night. I think it was like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I'm just like trying out all these different usernames, because on Instagram, you can just keep typing usernames and it gives you the check to let you know if it's approved. And I was like, CEO lawyer. It's like, wow, it's available. And I'm like, okay, well, is it available on YouTube? Yes, CEO lawyer is available on YouTube. Is it available on Snapchat? Boom, change my Snapchat name. Twitter. And then TikTok came a few years later. The only place it wasn't available was on Facebook. Apparently there's this Korean guy named like CEO, and he's a lawyer. So I, like, the actual CEO lawyer, I don't have it for Facebook. So I had to make the CEO lawyer for Facebook. And then I have another page, Real CEO Lawyer. But it just started as me wanting to brand myself on Instagram, because I knew there was a lot of momentum and I saw all these very successful people, seemingly successful, right? So I was attracted to being an influencer, but I made it my way. I wanted to give people value from the legal side. And it wasn't until about a year or so when I started realizing people are reaching out to me for PI cases, and these are good cases. Right. So the very first case in 2016, I signed up a $110,000 case in 2016 just from Snapchat, from doing Snapchat videos. And I was like, man, if I could probably get up to 7 figures with just posting content on social.
Right.
I kept doing that 2016, 2017. Finally, in 2018, I started boosting these posts on social media. So when I established my brand, I started doing a lot of content and I started testing to see what people liked. And after a couple hundred videos, you can figure out what people like. And those are the videos that you run as ads. So I remember like the biggest aha moment for me when it came to social media marketing was I had this video that literally went like this. Stop what you're doing right now and listen. There is no such thing as full coverage insurance. And I went through like what full coverage means and UM and all these things. And I ran that as an ad and I got like 5 clients from it that were like, hey, you know, I was in a car accident, you know, but the other person didn't have insurance, or I was hit and they fled the scene. And when they realized they had UM insurance, they called me. And that was a completely free video. Then I decided to boost a DUI video where I was like, did you know that you can get paid punitive damages on DUI accident cases? I spent $20 boosting that post just to my followers and friends of their followers. And I got 8 cases from it. It was something like a 50,000% ROI. It was astronomical. And from that point on, I said, all right, I'm going all in on social. I can't compete with these billboard guys. I'm going to go all in on social.
Yeah.
So that's literally the story of my life, is just catching the trend before anyone else catches it.
Yeah. And I think that is the beauty of posting as much content as you post, is that you can kind of gauge where is the interest level, because it always seems to me like the stuff that we post that I expect is going to get a ton of clicks, you know, ends up attracting like 2 views. And then some of the stuff that I post that is like, you know, I'm like, this is garbage, but I'll throw it up there, you know, is getting 15 likes and, you know, several comments. And so, you know, I don't have the following that you have, but it's just interesting to see how that kind of interest level is not what I expect it's going to be.
Well, you know, since you have the audience of criminal defense lawyers and other attorneys that are in the criminal space, how about I just give you some tips on what I know actually works very well?
Yeah, that'd be great for the audience.
Okay, so criminal defense content works way better than PI content, because criminal defense, people are always looking for ways to game the system. You know, like, oh man, I got a 1-up on the police officer. Like, I know this. So any video that teaches people how to deal with police officers after a stop, or their rights in a DUI checkpoint, or how to beat a case before it even starts from a criminal perspective, all of those videos are going to do so well on social media. And you should start by posting them on TikTok using the organic app, you know, the edits that you can do within the app for the subtitles, for the music, transitions, things like that. And if it's under 30 seconds after you post it on TikTok, share it on Instagram as a reel, because you have to use reels only for 30 seconds and less, you know, for right now. If it's over 30 seconds, post it as a regular video. Those videos will perform so much better than the traditional PI content. In fact, I run criminal defense videos just to educate the public for brand awareness. Even though I don't do criminal defense, I put out those videos because if they get 5 million views on TikTok, then I know someone likes it, right? And so if I share it on Instagram, now I have the metrics and the data for my existing clientele base and my audience. So I can blast that content to people and share it with lookalike audiences. That builds the brand awareness for literally a penny per engagement. And then I retarget those audiences with PI content, just so they don't think I'm just a criminal defense lawyer.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think that those kind of informational videos and just kind of following that, and we've seen some of the stuff that you put out on that front, you know, that is something that people are interested in, because whether it's somebody that you kind of meet, you know, in the courtroom that comes into the office, everybody's kind of like, what are my rights when it comes to a police stop? You know, what am I allowed to not talk to the police officer? Do I need to communicate with him? Can I walk away? You know, there's just so much kind of, you know, ability to kind of expand on that knowledge, because there's just such a lack of information about that, because that's not traditionally how we talk through crimes in law school, right? It's not that, you know, that's not really where the focus is in law school. And so I think lawyers kind of, you know, think people are looking for the substantive information about the crimes. It's like, no, I just want to know what are my rights when I come up to, like you said, a checkpoint. What are my rights when I'm stopped by an officer? Do I have to engage in conversation? Do I have to produce documentation? All those kind of things are huge question marks for much of the public.
Yeah, I mean, you should try to look. You have to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. And if you can, the general rule of thumb is if you can get 3 points out in 15 seconds or less, then that's straightforward content that is going to work.
Right.
Try to put 3 points in your video. I just love working in threes. Try to do that video in 15 seconds or less. If it takes a little bit longer, that's okay. And always have a catchy intro. That is literally the secret sauce for getting attention on your video. So if your video starts with, "Hi, I'm so-and-so attorney and I fight for maximum compensation," you've already lost them. They're already asleep.
Yeah. It's not a sales pitch. Yeah. You win on information, I feel like, with social media. No, it's not about.
You don't win on the information. You win on the attention that you grab.
Right.
And you keep them with the information.
Right.
And so you have to pitch it to them in such a way where it's kind of like spam, where it's like, "Hey, stop what you're doing right now. I gotta tell you this. Hey, I just came from court and I want you all to know." And if you bring that energy and that excitement in your videos, first of all, it's necessary because boring kills. And secondly, the reason I have like a higher energy and I go like an eighth of an octave higher on my videos, that's not because that's how I talk. I actually have normal conversations, believe it or not. But it's because it's the barriers in communication. If we're talking face to face, I don't need to yell at you because you can feel my energy and you can feel my body language. But then one degree of separation is when you're doing it on the phone or you're on a video chat where it's two-way communication. You guys can both see each other and I can adjust my personality and my tone and my body language to your reactions. But then if you don't see the person on the other end, you have to make these assumptions that this is what's going to work. And given the fact that we have such a low attention span and it gets worse and worse over time, that's why we have these quick 10-second, 15-second videos. You have to grab people's attention within the first 2 to 3 seconds. Now, here's where it gets exciting. Because you grab people's attention, the Facebook and Instagram algorithms believe that that's a good content. And because it's good content, they show it to more people. Right. And when they show it to more people, there's a higher likelihood of engagement. Now, when you run that same organic video as an advertisement that you boost, it's going to perform even better as an ad than all of your other videos, all because you grab people's attention. You just want that attention. You want to grab them. You want to tell them, like, stop scrolling right now. Instruct them. Here's what you need to do. Yo, look at your insurance policy right now and add add MedPay. Hey, do not speak to the police officer unless you know this. That's how you do it. You grab their attention and then they stay with you if it's actually valuable information. And so some people are phenomenal at doing the information. Some people are experts at being entertaining, but you have to bring those two together. Yeah. And as professionals, that's the hardest thing for us to do, is entertain while we educate. We always want to educate first. And if we have a chuckle or two in there, right, then we want people to stay on board. You have to entertain first and educate second.
Yeah, I think that's such a critical point, because I think specifically in the legal industry, we are much more information based. You know, it's all about kind of how can we communicate information to clients, and then when you see the you know, what's on social media from a lawyer perspective, for the most part, it's those kind of very salesy, boring, informational ads. And you can't give information to somebody, like you just said, without having seized the person's attention first. And that is, I think, you know, when people are kind of like, you know, well, I'm not going to do what Ali is doing because I think it's like demeaning to the profession. I'm not going to do what, you know, this particular attorney is doing because I feel like, you know, the person is kind of focusing too much on marketing. It's like, no, you can't actually give good information to potential clients unless you are able to grab their attention. You're doing clients a disservice. You know, you're doing the public a disservice by being boring, because if you actually have something special, something good content-wise to share, you better make sure that you do it in a way that people are actually going to listen to it, read it, engage with it.
You know how brilliant that is, what you just said? It's literally the secret. It's you first have to believe in your product or service. And as criminal defense lawyers, personal injury lawyers, and any sort of advocate for justice, we have to genuinely believe that the service that we provide to the public is one that is needed, and it is one that we need to share with other people. And so if you're not at that point, then you really need to do some restructuring and some soul searching and think about, well,
Yeah,
do I really want to be a lawyer? Do I really like this thing? But most of us don't have that problem. Most of us don't get to the point where the confidence exceeds the noise that people are going to give you when they start seeing your advertisements, they start seeing your videos. Because I have so many, I don't want to call them haters, but they're just haters, man.
Right.
Because I'm doing videos and I'm putting out content and I'm growing my business, I'm growing my law firm because I genuinely believe that the stuff I have to share needs to be shared with the world. Yeah. And I know that if I don't grab your attention and get you to watch my video, then it's a disservice to you and to the general public. On top of that, it's also a disservice to me and my potential and the impact that I can have on my family and my communities from the revenue that I generate so that I can donate it and give it out to people that actually need it. So yeah, it would be a disservice. And yes, I genuinely believe that I need to advertise, and I'm going to continue doing it and getting better and better and better at it. Yeah, and if you're ashamed of advertising, then someone like me is going to come eat your lunch.
Yeah. And I think that believing in your service, like you just said, is the critical factor, because we kind of have this like Venn diagram that we use at the office in terms of like internally thinking through what we are trying to promote to the public. So basically in one circle, it's, people deserve the best attorney on their case. People deserve the best representation on their case. In the other circle, it's the best cases go to the best marketers. So if you want to kind of have the public aware of you and you think that you're the best attorney to kind of help them out, again, you're doing them a disservice if you're not kind of getting your self-exposed to that potential client. They're not able to actually come in and capture the value that you're bringing to them. So we kind of always are like, we want to be in that sliver between those two circles where we believe in the product that we're offering, but we also recognize people aren't going to be able to take advantage of that product service unless we're in front of them.
That's exactly what lawyers have the kind of mental block with. It's that, well, I don't want to be a marketer. I just want to be a litigator. And it's like, well, even if you're the best litigator in the world, if no one knows that you exist, then guess what? You're not the best litigator.
Right. You're not. Exactly.
You're not. And so that's why people market. That's why people brand themselves. And so sometimes you discover, all right, well, I just want to partner up with a good marketer so that we can bring in these cases. But that's not how I started. I got my infrastructure as being an attorney, litigating cases, learning the ins and outs, and then realizing great cases don't just come in.
Right.
Great cases are built. And so if I'm acquiring these cases very early on in the process, literally you're calling me from the accident scene, then I can build that case up to a point where it's going to consistently hit great numbers, and my audience and my clients are going to be so happy because I can, videotape their reactions, post that as content on social media, and it just keeps feeding the machine. And that's what I learned when I started litigating, but I quickly realized litigators usually hate marketers. And so it's like, oh, you're not a real lawyer. It's like, I think we both have the same bar license.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The main difference with us is that I do what I enjoy doing, like if you love litigating and you hate marketing, maybe partner up with someone that's good at it.
Right.
Or maybe if you're not good on video, then just write, put out content, put something out that is, puts your best foot forward. But just staying behind and saying, oh, I'm not going to do that because it's demeaning to the profession. Dude, this profession is going to eat you alive if you just sit there and let newcomers come in and take a bite of this is war out here. It's not easy. If you're trying to grow your firm, you're going up against behemoths.
Right.
And you have to treat it that way, that you're going to war every single day. And so that's why my passion for marketing and my confidence in putting my brand out there far exceeds any of the negativity and any of the hate that I'm going to get from people and any of the backlash, especially from other attorneys, because last time I checked, your opinion doesn't pay my bills. So that's where we're going to leave it, right?
Yeah, or take care of your team either, right? It's not just about you at this point. I mean, you got a lot of people working with you, and I guess in terms of kind of maybe transitioning over for a little bit into kind of the culture side of what you do at the office. I mean, you started out as a one-man show, is that right? Was it kind of?
Yeah, I started from the trunk of my car.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty incredible from 2016 till the end of 2020. You grow from basically yourself to having 20 people on your team, and it sounded like just before we got on the call, you let me know that you've already got seven new team members at the office in 2021. You're building towards a much larger kind of scaling up thought process. So for most people in the criminal defense realm, and a lot of people in personal injury, having a jump from one, being a firm of 1 to 2 is a huge step. And then every additional team member after that becomes a little bit easier. But kind of talk about those, 2016, 2017, 2018, in terms of kind of building your team. What did that look like in terms of, hiring, and how did you kind of start to, create a culture that kind of was able to grow so rapidly?
So I started my law firm in 2017, February of 2017. And my main goal was to acquire as many clients as possible so that I could build a pipeline and really just take care of myself, because I had just been hungry and broke for so long.
Right.
And I was so tired of working at this other firm for a year and a half, making 40 grand a year. And I knew that it was all about the client acquisition, but I couldn't afford to advertise in traditional media or really put together any sort of ad spend. So I just created content every single day. I would put out videos about things that I learned. I would make it entertaining. Whenever I would travel, I'd kind of show people and kind of make it sort of like the Ali show. And over time, I got to a point where I was bringing in 10 to 20 clients a month just from posting on social media. Now, obviously, and here's where people make the mistake when they're trying to grow their firm. They hire people to fix a problem for them. And when they really should be hiring people to carry out a system that you've already created.
Right.
So as the CEO and as the owner of your firm, you need to figure out the client acquisition. You need to figure out how to maximize case value and how to have the best results for each client. You need to figure out how the structure of your law firm should be. And if you hire someone with the perception and the mindset that this person is going to solve my client acquisition problem, or they're going to solve my, paralegal problem, that's where you're going to be crushed, because employees are employees. They're not owners. If you bring someone on as COO and you give them percentage ownership in your company, that's about the only time that you're going to expect and maybe see the results that an owner would put forward. So when you're starting your firm, your main goal should be client acquisition. And once you've gotten to a point where you have enough clients in the pipeline and you figured out how to get that sort of revenue from them, you start to fire yourself every step of the way. As the
I like
owner
that. That's awesome.
Yeah. My goal is to fire myself from what I did yesterday. And so if you're starting a business and you want to know when is your first hire necessary or needed, your first hire should come when obviously you have the ability to afford it based on future projections and whatever savings you have. But it should be when the value of your time exceeds the value of the task that needs to be done. And so when you are a data entry type of person and all you're doing is just sending out letters and putting together a file, things that literally an $8, $10, $12 an hour employee could do, as an attorney, that's not worth your time. And so your very first hire should really be an assistant to handle those low-level tasks. You don't want to go in and hire a rock star paralegal to be doing the low-level tasks, because now that paralegal is going to get bogged down with doing these cheap, low-level tasks, and you're stuck with paying them that high-level salary. So my very first hire came about 3 or 4 months after I started my firm. It might have been summer of 2017. And it was just an assistant. I didn't have payroll set up. I didn't have my, my law firm running and everything going smoothly. I wasn't even paying myself. I literally just told her, look, I can pay you like $500 a week. I just need you to send out LORs and not even take client calls. I'll do all of that. Just send out LORs, set up files, and get me the medical records so that I can put together the demands. And then slowly but surely, every task started getting delegated to this employee. And I realized, well, now my time is more valuable than drafting the demands and doing the paperwork for my employees, for my clients. So the next hire was a $70,000 a year paralegal. And most people were scared. A lot of people advised me to not hire someone at that price point, and I probably overpaid. But what I learned was that I can have someone do the high level tasks for me as well, as long as I have a system and I can train them and feed them. And so with that one paralegal, I literally took my firm from $200,000 in debt to $3.2 million in revenue the next year. And since then, I realized it's really stupid to give Uncle Sam all of your money. You know, there's no point in giving 40% of your revenue. And when I cut a 6-figure check in taxes, I realized it's much better if I just take that 6 figures and invest it back into my marketing. So 2019, I went all in on running ads on social media. I made a lot of mistakes. My cost of client acquisition went to like $5,000 a pop because I was learning and testing and trying to figure out. And I made a lot of mistakes with hiring. I learned how to hire. You don't hire based on skills. You hire based on culture and attitude and the willingness to want to work.
That's so true.
And that work ethic. So once I got through all of those mistakes, by 2020, I had really started to figure things out. And that's when I started to attract better people into my system. And I didn't really get rid of all of the bad apples in my organization until mid 2020. And so now we have a system in place for literally everything. And it's not a perfect system. It's not like I have it in writing with a perfect video and training system. No, I have an idea about how things need to be carried out. And I just kind of like drop little pieces of nuggets along the way for my staff to know, hey, this is what we need to do. Here's the system. Here's the protocol. Don't do this again. I hired an HR manager just recently to help with putting those policies and procedures in place. And even then, everyone advised me to not get an HR manager. They told me that, it's too early. So to summarize, it's basically this. When you're first starting, you need to focus on client acquisition and get to a point where you can afford employees. The first employee you should hire should be someone that does basic data entry and handle all of the low-level tasks that are not worth your time. You should be mainly focused on the money, the client acquisition, the marketing, whatever it takes to work in the business to generate the most revenue as an employee. Then you start hiring the high-level employees. Those high-level employees are going to be handling the work that is pretty much everything that you shouldn't be doing. And you leave yourself to only do the things that you can handle on your own. Like I do my videos, I do my marketing, I do my handshaking with doctors and things like that. Eventually you can delegate all of that stuff too, but focus on the money, build a system that you know you can duplicate, and then fill in those positions. If you're trying to hire an employee to fix a problem that you haven't figured out yourself, it's not going to work.
Yeah, there's two things that kind of stuck out from that. To me, the first is I love this idea of fire yourself. Instead of kind of thinking about it as hiring somebody else, it's kind of like that. There's another person that probably not only can do this particular task that is maybe kind of not the best use of my skill set, but also probably could do it better than me. In a lot of cases, there's a lot of these tasks that we, because of just having done everything ourselves, and a lot of attorneys, including myself, we have big egos, right? So we gotta eliminate ourselves from everything. But even at the low level task positions, there's a lot of times team members that can do that better than you can, not just kind of the same level, but actually kind of improve on, because they're concentrated on that, right? They're focused in on that. It's something that they enjoy doing, maybe something that you really don't, and you kind of see as this like menial task, but somebody else is like, this is exactly what I've been kind of like hungry for, is kind of talking with people on the phone and engaging with them. And I like, like having conversations with people, whatever it might be. So I love that idea of firing yourself.
Before you get to that second point, I'm so obsessed with firing myself that I am a personal injury lawyer. The ideal client is car accidents. That's what I do all the time. I myself got into an accident last year, and I didn't do any of my own work on my case.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
didn't collect the medical records. I didn't do the demand. I didn't even file my own lawsuit on the case. I had my associate attorney file it.
Yeah.
So I'm so upset because I know the value of my time far exceeds the energy that I'm going to put into doing these tasks that my employees can do for me. And so, and I want you to get to your second point, because there's one thing that I forgot to mention about hiring that also was huge for me. And so I would definitely want to include that.
Well, and just to that point too, as well, like, the thing that kind of gets me excited is that we now have, include myself, 7 attorneys at the office, and seeing the way that some of the other attorneys at the office are kind of excelling and working on their skills in the courtroom. The goal for me is for all of them to be better courtroom attorneys than I am, right? Like the goal in terms of kind of growth and moving forward, and again, firing yourself, is to recognize if we can put the right training and practices and experience level in and build a system where we are creating kind of top level A playing attorneys, great if they're all better at defending people in the courtroom than I am. That's what I want to bring to the public, is the top level representation. So again, I just love that idea of firing yourself. Yeah. The second point was just briefly this kind of idea of learning from your mistakes. And it's such a, just kind of easy thing to kind of say, oh yeah, we learn from our mistakes. That's just so often heard when you talk about how you are educated, is just learning from mistakes. But I do think that, that's the only way to grow a firm, is just to kind of go through this process of trial and error. Your first hire, a lot of things are going to go wrong. Your first, kind of step towards building a system, a lot of things are going to stink about it. It's not going to go well. Your first marketing attempt is going to fall on its face. I got basically defrauded by a company that was saying that they were advertising these, sending these folders off to schools. Way back when I started, they took at the time it was a huge amount of money, like $1,000. To me, this was like this massive investment, and basically they didn't send any folders. This was like a whole scam company. But at the end of the day, I learned something from that, right? Like kind of figured out how to kind of, better invest time, how to kind of investigate kind of good marketing companies, that type of thing. So every, heartache along the way is a point of growth. And I think so many of us just, have that first hire, it goes south, things don't go well, it doesn't go as planned or how we see it. And then we just basically it's easier if I'm just a one-man show, and you go back to that. And, instead of taking that viewpoint, just recognize going in, a lot of things about this are going to go terribly wrong.
That's a huge rewiring that I had to do in my mind, was in 2019 when I realized I have the capacity on my own with maybe one assistant or one paralegal to do $5 to $10 million a year for myself.
Right.
That's a great lifestyle. It's a great living. I can have pretty much everything that I possibly need, support my family, and I'm good. But I had to make the conscious decision that I am capable of running $1 billion law firm, if not more.
Right.
So it would be disrespectful to me and my family and my passion, and to anyone who doesn't have the same opportunities in the US, like my family that lives overseas. They're smarter, better, stronger than me, but they just don't have the opportunities. And so it would be a huge, huge disappointment, and it would be disrespectful if I didn't fulfill that potential. And I knew that from going to $5 to 10 million a year to $100 million, $500 million a year, I needed to change the way that my structure and my organization was set up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that meant hiring a lot of people and learning that 5 people are required to do my job, and those 5 people will do it at 80% of what I was doing. And so I have to get to a point where I can bring in enough clients, enough revenue, and be able to afford making these mistakes. And this was a very, very painful year where I had to figure that out, made so many wrong hires. But once you go through it, you cannot get swole from reading about doing push-ups.
Right.
You have to do it.
That's so true.
And so when I learned how to hire and how to attract that talent, I've now put a system in place to know how I can grow my firm to that $1 billion number. And so we're not there yet. We had an $11 million year last year, but it was, 300-400% higher than what we had the year before. And now I'm consistently building those blocks and getting to that next level. And so I expect to be at 100 million within the next couple of years. And I expect to be at $1 billion within the next 10 to 15 years. I already know I'm there. It's just my bank account hasn't caught up to it yet. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, no, I love that. And I think, in terms of that mistake, being okay with mistakes mindset, it's one of those things where you can look at your firm and say, well, this is an overnight success. Basically Ali has kind of figured out this, system on, TikTok and on Instagram in terms of how to kind of, market his business. And he kind of, got lucky or whatever it might be. But really at the end of the day, I think a lot of that kind of shortening of success time frame from maybe other lawyers in a similar track is just being willing to kind of take more chances, make more mistakes. You have to have that like cornerback attitude of like, okay, other team just, threw a bomb over me, wide receiver scored a touchdown. Let's go back out and do it again. It's time to move on to the next play. And I think that, that kind of learning curve of just basically being kind of eager to make the next mistake, because on the other side of that, like next, pain, that next growing pain is growth, right? There's no growth without growing pains.
So, you mentioned something about luck, and I think that I get that all the time, is that I'm just lucky, right?
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Well, here's the thing about luck. Luck is a byproduct of hard work and consistency. It's just like playing the lottery. If you're looking to win the lottery and get very, very lucky, the chances of you doing it are like 1 in $100 million or 1 in 100 million. But the person that systematically looks out for how many tickets are still out there and goes out and buys all of the inventory, puts like a team of people and says, hey, I need $10,000 from each of you. We're going to go out and buy all of these tickets, and then systematically buys that lottery ticket, they have a much higher likelihood of success.
Right.
And so when people look at me, they think that, oh, well, you just got lucky. But luck is a byproduct of hard work and consistency. If I do this enough times, I'm going to get it right. And so you also have to look at the fact that this is how you get a large enough sample size to make your hypothesis. It's just like old school science class, right? You have to try something enough times to be able to prove your hypothesis. And so if you are running content and you're running ads on social media and you put out $100 and you said, oh, well, I put out that $100 and I just basically wasted it like that. I didn't get any clients from it. Guess what? If your cost of client acquisition on average in your market is $2,000, then you haven't had a large enough sample size to determine whether your hypothesis even works.
Right.
The same thing, you need to at least do it 20 more times to get an average of 1 client. And so for me, I have to try something 10 times to determine whether it actually works. And so I burn through cash so fast because I use money to learn faster. And once you make that mindset shift that I don't need this money for myself, I just need it to learn faster. And if I can deploy my capital to figure out what works faster, I can get to that golden result. I can get to that lottery ticket much sooner. And so, yes, it is luck, but it's strategic luck.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think on those, it's not even the value of what those marketing dollars are bringing in regards to that particular campaign. It's what is the educational value for future marketing campaigns that is coming out of this, that you have to factor in to kind of give yourself the confidence of this is well worth the time and investment that is going to happen, because it's not about just this particular kind of short-term campaign. This is how I learn how to kind of do this better in the future.
And, eventually you'll get to a level of confidence in your business where you can sniff out the bullshit from a mile away.
Right.
So we always start with just accepting every single call that comes in. Oh, this guy wants to teach me marketing. They want to help me. They want to get me leads. Oh, this person can get me a lead for $25. Dude, there is a cost of client acquisition in every industry.
Right.
Some of us are really, really good at what we do, and we can get that cost down by a few bucks. Nobody is really, really destroying that number at scale.
Right.
Yes, you can get your cost of client acquisition down to $5 a client because all you do is just boost a single video on Instagram once a month and you get 10 clients from it. But guess what? You were going to get that regardless. And if you're happy to get those 10 clients a month and you want to just grow your business at that rate and you want to take that money and keep it in your pocket to invest in other things, great. But at scale, you will eventually get to that number. And at a large enough scale, you will exceed that number where you get to a point of diminishing returns. But that's where the value of brand exceeds the value of lead gen. And so there's different levels to this game. You just got to decide if you want to run a $5 million business or a $5 billion business. I decided I need 3 commas. I know that I can do it. And if I want to build and get to my ultimate goal of building the first Muslim hospital in the US, I need a lot of capital and I need a lot of resources. And the connections that I'm going to make on the way to that $1 billion valuation are the resources that I need to make that goal a reality.
Yeah.
So that's how I see money. I don't need it for me. I just know that I'm capable of doing it and getting there. And it would be a shame if I don't do it because I know deep down that I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And money's just an amplifier. You give good people money, great things are going to happen. You give bad people money, bad habits, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah. And it's, I think that having that kind of like bigger picture goal, whether it's kind of helping the community or, doing better things for your team or for your clients, that is, I think, something that is really the true motivator for most people that are in that process of trying to scale up. I think that for anybody that kind of sees that, I have this opportunity to really maximize what I am bringing to the public, that mindset is really based on something typically bigger than yourself, or most of the time even bigger than your organization. And for us, it's kind of like, I could go along and continue to practice criminal defense in the Asheville area and bring what I thought was a very valuable service to clients here. But, why not kind of bring that same level of service to clients across the state of North Carolina through opening up these other offices and helping kind of give attorneys the tools that they need to be able to bring a higher level of service to clients, whether they work at the organization or whether they're just kind of practicing across the state. If we want to have better representation for our clients, we've all got to kind of elevate our game. So whatever I can do to kind of help push that up across the board, that's kind of like that driving force, driving factor in terms of growth. It's not a monetary game of like, here's the end goal of financial freedom that I'm looking for. It's kind of like, we need to kind of figure out a way to bring a higher level of service to clients that deserve better criminal representation.
Oh, I love that. I mean, it starts with financial freedom. The people start businesses because they want to be independent and they want to be financially free. But then once you've kind of achieved that level of financial success, your attitude and your perception starts to change about what your intent is behind running the business. Now I'm changing lives. I'm changing thousands of people's lives through personal injury settlements, through educating the public on social media for free, and for the dozens of staff members that I have employed for me. I'm affecting them and I'm affecting their lives. And so I think that people make
even just to interrupt you for a second. I mean, even in terms of the value that you bring on social media, in terms of educating the public, you can now do that at a level that you could not have done in 2017 because you have the time, you have the resources, the team to be able to do that. So, the good things that you did in 2017 are now exponentially larger because of the fact that you've been able to expand more into those areas.
No, absolutely. And I think people make the mistake that if you're starting the business for the sole purpose of making money, that business is never going to succeed. Well, when you're starting and you're hungry and you're broke, you're passionate about good food. You're passionate about not being broke and the lights turning off.
Yeah.
So that passion really does get you pretty far.
It does.
If you have a good head on your mind, on your shoulders, you'll get to that 6 or 7 figure mark. And then once you take a breather, you're like, wow, okay, maybe I need to shift gears a little bit. Maybe I need to focus on what really drives happiness into my life. And so now the happiness doesn't come from any sort of monetary gain or financial revenue that affects my business. It comes from being able to effectuate positive change in other people's lives.
Right.
I can do that at scale because I built the financial infrastructure. So
right.
if you're starting a business and all you have is just passion about the business that you're in and you don't have any sort of financial interest, I would say that those are the people that tend to fail more than the people that are interested in financial success in the beginning.
Yes.
You can always pivot. You can always pivot from being financially successful to focusing on other things. That's how philanthropy literally came to be. But it's not very easy to pivot from being really passionate about something and then learning how to make your business financially successful. You have to start with that infrastructure. And so if you're starting a business, you do need to focus on the money first. And there's nothing wrong with that, because guess what? You cannot pour from an empty cup. So focus on yourself and then help everyone around you.
I love that, Ali. I think that's probably a good place to kind of end the conversation, because I do think that you having that appropriate starting point, or kind of making sure that your business is capable of sustaining itself, is where most of the people that are kind of listening to this podcast, that are starting their own practice, whatever their firm looks like at this point, that's the focus that's got to be present first. So, certainly appreciate the time of you coming on the podcast, all of the information that you share. Definitely would recommend anybody that's interested more in Ali and what he's doing for his firm in Atlanta to kind of follow him on Facebook, on Instagram, CEO Lawyer. Look that up, and Ali will be right there at the top. A lot of really great information, and just to kind of visualize what kind of content is working on social media. I think that one of the things that I've just found briefly on your front that's so powerful is just the amount of content that you put up. And I think part of that is, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but for the most part, a lot of it just seems to be very simple in terms of kind of the creation of it. It's kind of about kind of creating something that is, attention grabbing, but you're not, sitting down for an hour in a studio setting with, actors and this kind. I mean, it's all very genuine in terms of how you're bringing that out.
Yeah, man. I mean, people see through that genuineness, man. People see through that fakeness too. So even right now, during this podcast, during the show, I'll have a camera set up, I'll have my phone set up, and I know that I speak in sound bites now.
Right.
So the way that I, carry conversations, I have the intention of putting this on social media. And so, like for instance, this is one piece of advice that I wanted to give to your audience before we, we leave, because I mentioned it earlier, and I think it's really, really important. And even as I'm saying this to you right now, I know that this is going to be a 30 to 60 second video that's going to be posted on TikTok, Instagram, shared to Facebook. So the way that I present it is going to be in such a way that grabs people's attention, but also fits in with the, with kind of like the vibe of this podcast. So here we go. When you're starting a business and you can't afford to hire an employee, then outsource the work in the beginning. And very simply, if you outsource that work and you get to a point where you're paying that outsourced person significantly more than you would pay an employee to do the same tasks and maybe even more, then you have figured out that you can afford an employee without any of the risk in the beginning. So in personal injury, you can outsource the medical record retrieval and realize, oh, I've been paying this company $2,000, $3,000 a month to collect records. I can hire an assistant to do the same thing, and they'll be in the office every day to answer my phone calls. So if you don't know if you can hire an employee, then outsource those low-level tasks in the beginning. Once you get to a point where it's expensive and you know that you can hire an employee to replace that outsource, now you bring it in-house, and now you know for a fact that you can afford an employee. That's it.
I love that, man. That's awesome. That was incredible. I mean, incredible advice, incredible delivery. That again, that's the kind of information that I see all the time that you put out, and the way that you explain it. But again, there's nothing kind of magical about it, right? It's basically like just deliver good information in an attention grabbing format. And that's the secret sauce. Like the secret sauce is that there's really, Not any. It's hard work, doing it over and over, getting better at it every day.
And James, I'll say this. There are way more people putting out content that shouldn't be putting out content than people that should be putting out content that are not. Right. There are many professionals out there that have so much value and so much knowledge in their brains, and they're limited and they're mentally blocked from putting this out because they think that it's too childish, or that I don't want to be dancing on TikTok, or social media is just for kids.
Right.
But you have so much value to give to your audience. And I would definitely say that if you are unsure about whether you should even be posting on social media, first think about whether you actually have something valuable to share. And if you do, then you look at yourself and try to believe that what you have to share is so important that you must share it with everyone. And if you don't, it's a disservice. And then after that, everything is just so much easier.
I love it. I love it, Ali. I really appreciate all of the advice and you taking the time to come on the podcast. Definitely hope this will not be the last conversation that you have to share with the audience.
No, man. Thank you so much for having me. And once again, I am the CEO Lawyer. You can find me on all social media platforms. If you shoot me a message on Instagram, you find me at CEO Lawyer. Just mention this podcast, mention this show, and I will be more than happy to respond to you personally and give you any feedback or advice that I can assist with. So thank you again, James, for having me. And I hope everyone has an amazing, badass CEO of a day.
I love it. Take care, Ali.
All right, man.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast. If you did, please share the podcast with another freedom fighter in the criminal defense community, and be sure to leave us a rating on iTunes. See you next time.